Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Thank you. And welcome to the Rotary Club of Madison. I'm Teresa Holmes, Club President. Thank you everyone for being with us today. Today's meeting is sponsored by Mike May and James Bartson of Boardman Clark. There they are. We thank them for their support of today's luncheon. All right, let's direct our attention to the opening music. Heidi Frankson will be leading us in singing our patriotic song, You're a Grand Old Flag, with Jeff Bartell on the keyboard. And following the music, our guests will be introduced by Donna B. Smith.
Old flag, you're a high-flying flag, and forever in peace may you wave. You're the emblem of the land I love, the home of the free and the brave. Every heart beats true 'neath the red, white, and blue, where there's never a boast or brag. Should old acquaintance be forgot, keep your eye on that grand old flag. We'd like to welcome a number of guests, and we're delighted to have you join us today. As I announce the guest's name, please stand and remain standing while I announce the other names, and then we'll recognize you all together. A guest of George Hidalgo is John DeSimone. John. Diane Baldwin is the guest of Teresa Holmes. Mayo Uwanowski is the guest of Dave Uwanowski. And Mike May has brought two guests, Anita Galucci and Evan Tenbrusco. And Bing Rickers is a guest of Larry Larrabee. And Cheryl Whitkey has brought Donna Whitkey. Welcome.
Thank you, Donna. We've had a number of questions about our meeting because of the increase in the cases of COVID-19. So the board discussed the topic, at our meeting on Monday night, and we reviewed the guidelines that the Dane County Public Health and the CDC have released recently. We included that information in yesterday's email to our members, and we plan to follow the Dane County and the CDC guidelines, as we strongly encourage Rotarians, even if vaccinated, to wear a face mask to our Rotary meetings. Masks may be removed when eating or when speaking from the podium. As leaders within our community, we are doing our part to follow best and current health practices for stopping the spread of COVID-19 and to support the efforts to ensure safety within our community. We have also had a few questions about attendance. So as a reminder, we are currently not enforcing the 50% attendance rule during the pandemic. The 12 meal tickets that standard members are required to purchase as part of your dues for the current 6-month period are valid through June 30th of this next year, so June 30th of 2022. So you have between now and June 30th of 2022 to use those tickets. If you aren't comfortable coming to meetings during this time because of the increased COVID cases, you can still use those tickets through next June of 22. Our board will be evaluating the topic of attendance and meal tickets again in November, and we'll keep you posted on any updates that we have to do because of modifications that we will make. Every 3 years, we survey our membership to ask for your preferences for funding regarding our community grants program. We had an ad hoc committee that met to review and suggest edits to the previous survey, and we thank Jen Savino, I don't know if she's in the room, for chairing that committee. All members should watch for an email that will go out tomorrow with a link that will have a survey. And it is a very short survey that should take no more than 5 minutes to complete. Your responses will guide our committee in recommending community grants and how they're funded for future years. So please make sure you respond to include your feedback in funding priorities. Tonight, we're working on ways for members to connect outside of the meeting. Some of you have heard about my Traveling with Teresa segment, and so tonight we've created a pop-up event. What is that pop-up event? I posted it on our club's Facebook site last Friday about the final concerts on the square for this evening. So we have about 20 people. We actually have 2 slots available if anyone else is interested, but we have about 20 of us who will be watching tonight's concerts on the square in one of the Breeze Stevens Field suites. And you can watch for more pop-up events on our club's private Facebook page. There are about 115 members that are currently registered for that Facebook group, and so if you aren't one of them, you can request or make a request to join, connect, and grow while serving via Facebook, and you will receive notices about the future pop-up events. So you can connect with members inside and outside of our Rotary Club. There's a link to this group that'll be in the monthly newsletter if you're looking for an easy way to request or join. Thank yous. Our club has been meeting here at the Park Hotel for many years, more years than I have been a member. And so week in and week out for the last 20 years, Andy Abram has been setting up this meeting room right here for us, and is always on hand to help with any extra needs that our group might have. Andy is in the back of the room. Andy, would you wave, please? And I wanted to let everyone know that today is Andy's last day here at the Park Hotel. Thank you, Andy. Let's give him another round of applause for his outstanding service to our group. "20 years is a long time to get it right in one spot." All right, birthdays. We have birthdays to celebrate with a bit of humor or wisdom that complements Rotary's mission. We also encourage members to make an age-appropriate gift to the Madison Rotary Foundation, rounded up to $100 for our club's Synergy Scholarship Fund. You guys ready? If you're in the room, Rotarians, please stand. August 1st, Daryl Benke. August 1st, Stan Inhorn. August 1st, Letitia Nelson. August 2nd, Mike Casey. August 4th, Mallory Hepner. August 4th, Mike Swanson. August 5th, Heather Hopke. And August 6th, Megan Ballard. Thanks to our celebrants for their contributions to the Madison Rotary Foundation. Please join me in wishing them a happy birthday. Birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Ontario. Happy birthday to you. All right. We've had a few members in the news this past week, and that information also will appear in our newsletter in case you want to refer to it. So Teresa Holmes was featured in the Wisconsin State Journal column, "Know Your Madisonian." I hope I served our club well. Catherine Smith was quoted in an article titled 20th Annual Opera in the Park and a little tap and a lot of love in the Capital Times, 725. All right, now on to the best part of our segment, our program. Our speaker today is Dr. Corey Pompe, who was appointed Associate Director of Bands at UW-Madison in 2019, succeeding longtime director Mike Leckrone. Prior to coming to Madison, he was assistant professor of music, associate director of bands, and director of athletic bands at the University of Nevada-Reno. Dr. Pompe holds a Bachelor of Science degree in music education and a Master of Arts degree in music education from the University of Alabama. He earned his Doctor of Musical Arts degree in wind conducting at the University of Texas. Today, he is going to tell us about his experiences leading the band through the pandemic and what lies ahead as the full band prepares for its return to public performances after more than a year and a half. It's about a month away, right? We look forward to his presentation, and we have made a contribution to the Rotary International Polio Plus Fund in his name as a way of saying thank you for speaking to us today. I also want to mention that we will have Q&A following our speaker, and as time allows, of course, but please wait for the microphone if you have a question. Let's welcome Dr. Pompe to our podium.
Thank you, Teresa, for that wonderful introduction. Good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to see you today. Teresa said that this would be the best part of the presentation of today's event, and I'm looking around wondering, who is she talking about? Because it could not possibly be me. But you're really kind. Well, I can tell. So that's great. Everyone's just been so welcoming today. I want to thank the Rotary Club of Madison for all of the wonderful things that you do for the community. Admittedly, I didn't know much about the Rotary Club of Madison before moving to Madison, but I know more now. And I know that what you are doing is indeed making an impact on the community. I also want to thank Martha. Is Martha here today? She made the introduction. She's not here. And I also want to thank Jane for all of the work that you've done, and this wonderful greeter here, Cheryl, who's been marvelous. So I'm starting my third year as director of the marching band, and admittedly, I continue to be amazed that people actually want to hear anything that I have to say. I'm a band director. I work with musicians. I enjoy working with musicians and making music with people, but the speaking stuff, that's not exactly my forte. And so when I accepted the position, I didn't realize that I'd be speaking, particularly to a group such as yourselves. And the truth is, when I looked at my calendar, I didn't have a good reason to say no. So here I am. So if you'll indulge me for a few moments, I'll talk about what it's been like leading the band through the pandemic and what lies ahead. And my favorite part is the Q&A. And so if I start getting a little bit long-winded here, feel free to give me the hook so that we can get to the Q&A. So before I start talking about leading the band through the pandemic, let me tell you just a little bit about the band. As many of you know, it's a very storied tradition that we have. The band was founded in 1885, and we know that the band was on the campus of the University of Madison at least 9 years before the football team. So, well, thank you. You know, we've had some legendary directors, one being Ray Dvorak, and my immediate predecessor, Mike Leckrone, who was at the helm for 50 years. And of course, Following a man like Mike has its own challenges, but there have been good ones, and he's been wonderful to me and the organization since the retirement. We have about 300 students in the band, and the instructional staff is comprised of 10 people. There's me, our assistant director, Alexander Gonzalez. We have a percussion coordinator and 7 teaching assistants. And it takes all of us to make it work. In addition, we have the support staff of the School of Music and the support of the College of Letters and Science. And without all of their help, we could not do what we do. And so the organization has many, many moving parts, and keeping up with all of those moving parts can be very challenging at times. And so we know that we had the pandemic. The full band has not been together since March of 2020. So it's been a long time since we've seen each other. We've seen pieces here and there, but not everybody. And if I were to get really technical about it, I would say the whole band hasn't seen each other since the Rose Bowl, because not everyone participates in the spring band. So it's been a while since we've had a chance to get together. And I can't sugarcoat it. I'd like to if I could, because that's my nature. I like to sugarcoat things and try to put a positive spin on things. But this last year and a half has been awful. But we did the best that we could. And it's been a Herculean task, to say the least. In my first few months on the job, they were great. They were great. Things were going swimmingly. And life is interesting. Life had to throw that curveball in March of 2020. Just when I thought we were getting ready for the spring concert, and I was trying to decide if I was going to fly in and all of that good stuff. I'm lying, that was never on the table. But we were getting ready, and all of that was taken away. And so we spent the entire summer trying to get ready for the academic year. Now, I must be careful with what I'm about to say. I love this job. I love the students. I love the University of Wisconsin. But on more than one occasion, I thought to myself, you know, you had it really good when you were an assistant director. With that said, there's no doubt that I am where I'm supposed to be, and I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. So that's life for you, and that's certainly how things have worked out here. And so we spent a lot of time looking at the science. You know, I'm in a couple of professional organizations, and we had a lot of meetings on Zoom, and we commissioned studies to see what the impact of COVID and aerosols and different things like that are when it comes to playing wind instruments. So we thought we had a great plan, and we were ready to go. Well, the university had some different ideas. The university said, you can rehearse, but you can only rehearse with 25 people at a time. Now, as I mentioned to you, we have about 300 people. It was a little down this year because of COVID, but let's just say 300. And so we had to split the band up into groups of 25. We normally rehearse Tuesday through Friday, 3:45 to 5:30. But this year, we only rehearsed 3 days a week, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. and each group of 25 saw us for about 50 minutes. And that continued for most of the spring semester until the numbers in Dane County got to be, they weren't good. So we had to make the call. We actually decided to stop rehearsing before the university did because we could see the writing on the wall, and we certainly didn't want to put anyone in danger. Although I am very proud to say that to the best of my knowledge, no one got sick when they were rehearsing with the band, so I'm glad of that. And so I won't regale you of all that happened when we were trying to figure out, will we play football? Will we not play football? That was an ordeal. But when we found out we weren't playing football, the question was, how do we proceed? And as I mentioned to you, we were here 9 years before football, so I didn't have any problem conveying that to the band. And the goal was to still perform. People still want to hear the band. We want to perform. We can't play, we won't be at the football games. Okay, we can still continue. Well, things didn't work out quite that way. And so for me, and quite frankly, the members of the band, there had to be a paradigm shift. We do marching band because we enjoy bringing good times to people. We enjoy seeing people smile. We enjoy seeing them love the music. There's a certain amount of gratitude that comes with seeing the happiness on everyone's faces from what we do. But we didn't have that. So we had to shift our thinking. Why were we there if we can't perform for people? So first thing we had to do was we had to keep up our skills. You don't want to hear the band on September the 4th if we took a full year off, trust me. You don't want to see them either if we had taken a full year off. So we had to keep up our skills. We had to keep playing music. We had to keep working on our marching technique and different things like that. And on top of that, we had a first-year class that needed to learn our traditions. They need to learn the music. They need to learn the marching style. And we had, as best we could, we had to get them ready for September the 4th. Because what's happening on September the 4th is we're going to essentially have half of the band that's never played at a football game. Because we had the first year class from last year, we'll have the first year class from this year. And so I'm nervous. but we'll get it through. So I'll show you a video of what we did when we were rehearsing in those groups of 25. Why don't we play the first one? Thank you. Now, that was probably about a minute. You could imagine how long it took just to put that together. And if you look closely, you can see the different colors of green. And we're doing it at different times of day. And that's simply because of when we saw our students. And none of us are recording engineers, so that was an adventure in and of itself. But somehow we were able to pull things together. And we were able to get a second video in. So if you'll indulge me, I'd like to play that one too. And then I'll talk a little bit about it afterwards. So On Wisconsin was earlier in the season. If You Want to Be a Badger was later in the season. And hopefully you could see that we learned a few things about technology between then. We were able to get just a little bit more fancy with that. But I must say, the students throughout the pandemic, they were wonderful. You know, they understood what was going on. And we all understood why we were in the position that we were in. That doesn't mean any of us liked it or loved it, and sometimes morale did get a little bit low because of it. But we kept pressing ahead nonetheless. And when we started, things started to get really, really bad. We thought, well, I don't know what the spring semester is going to look like. Because in the fall, we could at least rehearse in groups outside. But now it was getting too cold. Can't rehearse outside. We could, but we didn't want to. Too cold. And so we had to figure out how we would move forward. So I sent the survey out to the band, and we wanted to know, would you be interested in continuing in the spring, knowing that we probably won't do a spring concert, we probably won't see each other in person, and we'll probably have to do everything online. And I must confess, I didn't think many people would take that deal. I cannot honestly tell you that I would have. But it's a testament to the wonderful students in the band. They did. They signed up for the class, and we made the best that we could out of a precarious situation. Now, fortunately, by the time we got to March, we started seeing light at the end of the tunnel, and we were allowed to rehearse again. This time we were allowed to rehearse up to 150 people at a time. And so we rehearsed on Wednesdays, and we split the band in half and tried to prepare for this upcoming year as best we could. But now here we are. It's exactly a month away from September the 4th, when the marching band has to come out of that tunnel and entertain the masses and support our football team when we beat the living daylights out of Penn State. But we've got a lot of work to do before then, and that work actually started back in the spring semester. We have to figure out what we're going to play. And so one of the things that we do, we send a survey to the students. We like to get their feedback on what they'd like to play. We go over that survey, and then the staff and I get in a room, and we figure out what the programs are going to be for the upcoming season. And that takes quite a bit of time. And we have to go through the trouble of acquiring the rights. Anything that's played on the field has to be paid for, and we have to have permission to do it. And sometimes people say no. I'll give you an example. We wanted to play Born in the USA by Bruce Springsteen. Well, I don't know if Bruce Springsteen said no, but somebody in his camp said, you can't play our music. So we had to go back to the drawing board, and you'll see what that is on 9/11. I won't spoil what we decided to put in its place. And so we figure out what we're going to play, and then after that it's a matter of getting ready for the season. On paper, it looks like we'll be in good shape this year. But I'm not counting my chickens before they hatch. I want to see eyeballs. I want to see individuals before I can say with certainty that we'll be back in full strength. I was quite optimistic, and I'm still optimistic, even though I'm concerned with what's going on with the Delta variant and different things like that. And now there's a new one that started to make its way, the Lambda variant. And so that's quite disconcerting. But until we hear otherwise, we're going to stay the course. Athletics is saying that they're expecting full attendance, and we expect to have a full band. So we will begin on August 9th. That's when the teaching assistants come in. August 13th, the leadership team comes in. We'll spend 2 days training and getting ready for everyone else. We'll choose a drum major on the 15th. And then on the 18th, that's when we see everybody. And from the 18th of August all the way to the start of classes, which is September the 8th, we'll be working hard. And it's going to take all of that time. We'll be doing mostly what we call 3-a-days, meaning 3 sessions of rehearsals for most of those days between August 18th and the start of classes. Now, we will take some time off here and there. Sometimes we'll do 2 days. Sometimes on occasional Sunday, we'll take off. But it's going to take all of that time for us to be ready on September the 4th. And then when classes start, as I mentioned earlier, we'll be rehearsing every day. We rehearse somewhere between 8 and 10 hours a week in preparation for the football game. So it takes a lot of time, but we're excited. And not only do we have to get ready physically, not only do we have to get ready musically, but we've got to hem uniforms. We've got to make sure all of the instruments are in working condition, have to make sure they're clean, ready to play. So there's a lot that goes on before the public sees anything. But we do it because we love it, and we have a great time doing it. And before we get to the Q&A, thank you so much.
You're very welcome, sir.
Thank you. Before we get to the Q&A, I'll play one more video. And my hope is that this will be the last video like this that you ever see. Because we enjoy playing music together. The word band means together. And so we like each other. We do. We like most of the people anyways. And we enjoy the process of music making, and we enjoy performing for people, because when you get a group of people together for a shared goal, there's this energy that happens. And it's just not the same when we're doing it through technology. But nonetheless, I am proud of the students. I'm proud of how they persevered through the pandemic. I'm proud that we were able to put some things together, that we were able to get out to the public. And thanks to the Alumni Association, we were able to do a few things through their partnership with them. As I mentioned, we learned a lot between the beginning of the pandemic and the end of the academic year, and it gets a little bit more interesting from a visual standpoint, harder too, because those first two videos, it was less work. There's no way to put it, no good way to put it, less work. But this last video, we had to take individuals and figure out how to make this thing go. I'll leave you with this, and then I'm happy to take any questions that you may have. Anything's on the table, and everything's fair game. Thank you, thank you, thank you. All righty.
I've got a question. You've talked a lot. There are two important parts of the band. One is the music, and one is the choreography. Talk a little bit more about the origin that you use for the choreography. Talk a little bit more about that, because that physicality is one of the wonderful things about our band, from the marching to the formation. So share a little bit about how you work that out.
It's my pleasure. We call what we do Stop at the Top, and that's a creation of Mike Leckrone. And we're the only band in the country that marches that way. And I'm happy to hear that you think it's wonderful. It is wonderful, but it's hard. Oh my goodness. It's very, very difficult. And it's difficult to make the band sound good while doing it. And that's a big challenge that we have. And a lot of that starts with these preseason rehearsals. As I mentioned, we'll start on August 18th. And so when the first year students come, they have a two-part audition. The first audition is a music audition. One of the things we learned through the pandemic is that we can do the music audition through video. So they'll submit a video, they'll get evaluated on their musicianship. That happens towards the beginning of the week. And at the end of the week, there's a marching audition where we've taught them the skills that we would like them to know in order to be in the band. And those that have a good combination of a music score and a marching score, those are the people that will make the band. We also have our returning members. They have to get conditioned. They've been spending the summer sitting on the couch eating potato chips, so they have to get back in shape. And so we spend that, it's usually a week. This year we're starting on Wednesday, but we spend all of that time up and down the field, you've never heard On Wisconsin so many days or so many times in your life. Hours upon hours, days upon days. And we do it through technique. So it's a combination of conditioning, and it's a combination of really being direct, let's put it that way, about playing the music and insisting that we hold out our phrases. Yes, I know you're tired. Too bad. We've got to get to the end of the phrase. We cannot let the marching style be a reason why we don't sound good. So it's a lot of rehearsing, no question about it. And that's how we do it.
Corey, I have a question for you. I'm curious, based on where you've been an instructor elsewhere, if there's any new traditions that you plan to bring here, and also if you have any thoughts about how to reduce or extinguish the tradition that we have of shouting profanities at one another during the game.
I don't know if I have an answer for that second one. But the first one, I need to choose my words carefully. We've got plenty of traditions. And so I don't necessarily know that we need to bring anything new. And quite frankly, I'm of the opinion that traditions develop organically. So if something happens, it happens. But for the most part, we're doing what we do. One thing we did change was the last show that we do in the year, we do what we call the On Wisconsin finale, and the seniors would bow and throw their hats up in the air and different things like that. And we did make a slight change to that, and the seniors seemed to enjoy it. And at that part in the show, when we did it, the crowd was quite receptive to it. So that is a new tradition. They'll remain standing, and eventually they'll bow. Minor change like that. And perhaps there are other things that are coming on the horizon. But I can't honestly say that I'm actively thinking that we need a new tradition or something like that. I'd just be happy if we play in March well. That's what I like.
I want to ask a question and see how many people here would know the answer. Everybody knows I'm old, so I don't mind saying that in 1947, as a freshman, I marched myself to the place where they said you could talk to the band director. And with my small high school marching band skills on the snare drum, I thought, of course they would want me. I was greeted with no girls in the band. So sometime later, through something with the Alumni Association, they said, what is the favorite question you have? So I wrote, I would like to know, in what year did we get girls to play in the band? And if my memory serves correctly, the answer is 1970. It took a while.
I don't have my notes with me on that one, but it was the 70s. And that was the Big Ten. It took a long time for the Big Ten to change. Most of the bands were all male for a long time. And so in the 70s is when most of those organizations became co-ed. So that is accurate.
Dr. Pompe, thank you for joining us.
It's my pleasure.
I was wondering whether you need a marching piano.
Well, that would be awesome. And let me say, I recognized every tune that you played today. and it was a joy to hear you
Oh,
play.
thank you, thank you.
It was wonderful.
Tell us, how many first-year students apply for the band? How many do you admit from the first-year class? And is there attrition during the year?
It depends. It depends. And I won't be able to say for certain until we start rehearsal. But what happens is we decide how many people we can take based on how many people leave. So if we have 24 saxophonists and 6 of them leave, we're taking 6. And that number varies slightly from year to year. But if we have 300 people, it's reasonable to say about a fourth is a fourth to a third, somewhere in there is how many people we're expecting to take. Is there attrition during the year? Sometimes. Very little. I only know from my first year of 2 or 3 people that quit during the year, and most times it has to do with their schedule. They have to work or something like that. In one case, it was because the person didn't want to do what it takes to get on the field. But it's mostly because of reasons having to do with their schedule and different things like that. But once we hit August, there's not a ton of attrition through the fall. In the spring, the band's always a little bit smaller because we have people that do internships and different things like that.
So my question, good morning.
Good
Thank you so
morning.
much for afternoon.
Afternoon, you're right. Good afternoon.
Afternoon. My question is around equity as well, and I was just thinking about how, since you've been at the university, have you seen more children, youth of color come and join the band? Because normally, if you're a child of color, especially African American, you play a band in a southern university, and the whole band is all black or very racially mixed. Have you seen a change in that since you have been at the university? And then what are you doing to try to enhance that? Because I have a grandson who's now playing the trumpet, and I would love for him to play for you.
Thank you. Well, we'd love for your grandson to come and play the trumpet. And the answer is, in recent years, there has not been much change. That's the truth. We know that there's a problem. How to fix it is difficult, and we're working on that. We recently completed a climate survey. We looked at the data recently of the last 10 years about who's in the band, where they come from, first-year college student, all of that stuff. And so the band has historically been overwhelmingly male and overwhelmingly white. That's what the band has been. We're working to try to improve that. If you've got some ideas, I'm all ears. We want to get into places like Milwaukee, Beloit, Racine, and so we're looking at ways to get the band out to people who don't normally see us. In the spring, we do what's called run-out concerts. And we go across the state, and sometimes we get into Illinois and places like that. But all of those people pay to see us, and they have the means to see us, and they know what they're going to get. So we're trying to figure out how we get the band to underserved populations. So those are conversations that are happening with DDEA at the university, and we're looking at it. That's about all I can tell you right now. We know that there's an issue. We're working to improve things, and we would like to at least, at a minimum, get things to where the university is. Of course, where the university is not ideal, but we're not even where that is right now. So we're working to improve those things.
One of your great predecessors, who you mentioned, Ray Dvorak, was a member of this club for many years and was the song leader.
Oh, wow.
Tremendously important, and I know, listening to what you've just said, you would be a great member of this club.
Well, thank you. We're really kind.
But my question is, do your students appreciate how beloved this band is? I'm 75, I haven't been to a football game in years, but when I saw that varsity, it was spine-tingling. Do they know, do they appreciate how loved the band is by alumni and students too?
I think they have some idea that people enjoy what they do, yes. But it's always good for them to hear it, because here's the thing. I try to be as encouraging as I can on a daily basis and try not to get too negative when things don't sound or look as good as we think they should. But I try to personally convey those sentiments to them. But it's really meaningful when they hear it from other people. So I wish they could have been here to hear you say that, but a lot of them do know that, and they do feel it when they perform.
A question about financial assistance. Do band members get scholarships or work study or any other sort of financial assistance for being in the band?
Most of the band members that participate do it for the love of participating. We have a handful of scholarships, but most of them are one-time. We do not have any scholarships that we guarantee for 4 years. And so a long-term project of mine is to get some kind of scholarship assistance for everyone in the band, but we're quite a ways from that.
Thank you, Dr. Pompe.
Thank you, thank you.
The president has a suggestion for you.
Sure.
I don't know how many of our members remember this, but one of the things that we did in this club to increase our membership of color is we took pods or small groups of Rotarians who were not of color into the communities of color. Who remembers those field trips that we took? Yeah, I see a few hands. And so that exposed those communities to our Rotary Club, and it opened up and created awareness for Rotarians who were not of color to our communities of color and what they were doing. So thank you for being with us today.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. Should I take this with me? Just leave it up here?
All right, for those of you who are attending our pop-up event tonight, I will see you there, and we are adjourned.